This is Green Street, the environmental health show, greenstreetnews.org, Patti and Doug Wood, and our worldwide network of scientists, researchers, authors, medical professionals, and reporters here every week to keep you up to date on what you need to know to protect yourself and your family in this increasingly toxic world. Welcome back. For millions of kids and their parents, it's back to school time. Time for making new friends and learning new things. But it's also a time to think about what we're teaching our kids about the world and their role in it. Most kids already get it to some degree. Most of them know about our climate crisis and our worldwide plastic pollution problem. They know there are foods that are good for them and foods that may not be so good. But ultimately, they learn from our own actions and behaviors. Today on Green Street, we'll talk about some of the decisions parents have to make as they send their kids back to school and how those decisions can help their kids understand more about their own role in the world. That's all coming up on this edition of Green Street, but first, some of the news headlines of the week. Patti, what happened this week that people need to know about?
Well, as reported in the New Lead, which is a environmental health news feed, they say that a new study of a commonly used pesticide shows that children who were highly exposed prior to birth showed signs of impaired brain development and motor function. The pesticide chlorpyrifos, which has a trade name of Dursban, is still used on U.S. crops despite decades of warnings about its impact on children's health. And I have to just make a note here, which was not in the article, that the EPA in 2000 banned Dursban, or chlorpyrifos, for residential use, which included lawns and gardens, playing fields, pet flea collars, and pesticide-treated rugs.
Okay.
This new study, published in the Journal of American Medical Association, comes just a few months after the EPA announced its plans to partially ban chlorpyrifos but allow continued use on 11 crops. The EPA was all set to ban chlorpyrifos from all uses in agriculture back in 2017, but before the ban went into effect, the then newly installed Trump administration reversed the ban. Then EPA banned it again in 2021 after a federal court ordered the agency to take action due to the mounting evidence of the neurological risk it posed to children.
All right, let me just back up. So they banned it in a lot of household uses.
They banned it for homeowners' use, basically, household use.
But they allowed it in agriculture, in our food.
They continued to allow it in agriculture.
Okay.
But then, after that, after the 2021 federal court order, the agency reversed course again after a different federal court sided with farm groups who had opposed it. And there's a quote here from one of the authors of the study saying, "There is no safe level of exposure. Chlorpyrifos can cross the placenta to the fetus." And Patty Goldman, who's a senior attorney at Earth Justice, who has led the organization's work on chlorpyrifos, called the new study remarkable and said that these kinds of effects are, quote, "the whole reason we have been bringing different lawsuits to the EPA." So we have traces of this chemical in baby food, especially pears and blackberries and celery and tomatoes and so on. And experts suggest that parents and parents-to-be concerned about exposure should buy organic food if they can. And if that's not possible, to wash anything they buy, fruit or vegetable, very, very well before serving it.
Especially for kids. And pregnant moms, right?
Yeah,
That's
what this report was all about.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. What else you got?
You want good news or bad news?
Want good news.
Oh, good news. Okay. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette has good news. For years, firefighting foam containing these toxic forever chemicals called PFAS has been the gold standard for suppressing and extinguishing petroleum-based fires. But that may soon change.
Really?
Yeah. One potential contender to replace the PFAS-laden foam comes from a company in Dalton, Georgia, where Chief Technology Officer and Managing Partner Dave Garley has led development of a new firefighting foam that's actually made from soybeans. Unlike traditional chemical-laden foam, the soy foam doesn't persist in soil or water. It's biodegradable, breaks down without the threat of PFAS or forever chemicals sticking around indefinitely, where it can migrate into fields where produce and animal feed are grown or run off into streams and public drinking water supplies.
Yeah, big problem.
Yeah. The only challenge to the new product so far is ethanol. fires fueled by ethanol, which is a highly flammable alcohol present in some fuels and solvents, require a different suppression chemistry than soy foam currently provides.
Huh. So the only downside is ethanol. Otherwise, it works just as well as the other
100%,
product.
yeah.
That's really cool.
That's good news.
Yeah, finally good news.
Yeah, but we have to talk about some bad news. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The news outlets around the world are reporting, and this is from last week, that the recent collapse of the UN talks about curbing the worldwide scourge of plastic has dimmed any hopes of actually getting a global deal for as long as the Trump administration is in power. The 3-year global push to finalize a legally binding treaty to turn off the plastic tap now appears to be dead, at least for several years. Many participants in the UN conference blamed the failure of the meeting on oil-producing countries, including the United States. Mm-hmm. And they took a hard stance against any limits on new plastic production, one of the keys to reining in the glut of plastic now tied to serious human health problems, as well as worldwide pollution of our oceans and food systems.
Yeah. We had that story a couple of weeks ago about the Trump administration sending a letter out to everybody.
Telling countries not to vote for it.
Don't vote for it.
Yeah. The U.S. State Department said in a statement that the U.S. delegation pushed for, quote, common sense and pragmatic approaches during negotiations to reduce plastic pollution while also protecting American industries that rely on plastic.
It's hard to know what to say. You know, we've got kids being born with plastic in their brains and in their bodies, and we're worried about the economic impact on companies that rely on plastic. Give them an off-ramp of a couple of years, but let's set some limits. Some limits, at least. Did you know that Donald Trump signed an executive order encouraging people to buy plastic straws?
Are you kidding me? Where'd you read that?
I know. It's unbelievable. Wow. Yep, encouraging people to buy plastic straws.
Shocking.
Yeah.
We're just about to talk about back to school lunches with your stainless steel straws.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Anyway, I thought you'd appreciate that.
Wow, okay.
All right, we'll be right back. So it's back to school time. Patti, what are the most important things for parents to consider as they send their kids back to school?
Well, since we were just talking about plastic, you're going to have to try to find plastic-free school supplies, plastic-free lunch containers, and so on, and also plastic-free clothing.
Yeah.
I know this is crazy, but, clothing is a big, big player in the plastic pollution problem that we have.
Yeah, a giant player.
Big player. And this is a time when everybody's out shopping. It's back to school. So they're buying clothes and they're buying, new sports equipment and they're buying school supplies for the classroom. And they're buying new lunchboxes and all the stuff that goes in those lunchboxes. And so it's a really important time to think about what the consequences are of just continuing to buy single-use plastic things and to buy things that are actually shedding microplastics.
And it's a chance to teach your kids a little bit something about the world and about, environmental stewardship and be about individual responsibility. And I mean,
this is an opportunity to educate your child.
Yeah,
no matter whose classroom your child has been assigned to this year, you are their first and most important teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's written in one of the suggestions or tips for back to school from Beyond Plastics, the nonprofit that's based up at Bennington College. Mm-hmm. You need to make a point of explaining why you're looking for items that are reusable and looking around your house for things that are still good. Yeah. You don't have to buy new stuff every single year. It was still good in June.
Kids like
and it's been sitting around in desks and wherever for 2 months. You can just pack it right back up into your school supplies.
Well, kids like to have new stuff, but again, it's a learning opportunity for them to understand why it's important not to just continue to buy new stuff and replace perfectly good stuff. Like our friend who was throwing out a perfectly good baby seat because it was past its expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it. A perfectly good baby seat. I mean, an elaborate baby seat, an expensive baby seat. She has that out for the garbage. I said, I think your baby seat is out by the garbage. She said, oh, yeah, it's past its expiration date. I'm like, huh? Holy cow. All right. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So, I think you can divide this up into those different things that I just spoke about, which is number one, shopping for school supplies. Number two, lunches are really important, lunches and snacks, and then clothing. And it's not easy to do this. It's much easier to go to the store and just take the list, which was sent by the new teacher, of all the supplies that they want your child to have on day one.
And order it, right?
Go to Amazon or go to Staples or go to, wherever, Target, and just go buy all new stuff, and 99.9% of it is plastic.
So let's talk about school supplies. What kind of things are we talking about? We're talking about notebooks and folders and pencils and pens and markers and things like that?
Yeah, and one of the things about school supplies is that many of them are made of plastic, and so they last a long time.
Yeah.
So you can absolutely use what you already have from last year. If it's not beat up or broken or ripped in some way, just take it out, give it a little wipe down with a sponge or something, and you've got a 3-ring binder and a ruler and a scissors. Which you don't need to go out and buy all over again every single year.
Or maybe it belonged to an older brother or older sister who's moved on in grades and,
Exactly right. Older siblings or family members, school supplies can sometimes work as hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
So there are also plastic-free options, and a lot of things out there are refillables now. You can get refillable pens. You can get wooden pencils. You can get wooden rulers and metal rulers. That's it. You really need to think about that. And I'm guilty because I was just helping my granddaughters buy their school supplies, and we were going through the list and finding all the things that we needed and just buying new things.
It's exciting for kids to go shopping.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was able to, we got cloth, we got a canvas bag, for all their pens and pencils and the erasers and so on, instead of a plastic one.
What about backpacks and things? Can you get canvas backpacks?
Well, backpacks are a problem because backpacks are usually made from plastic. And the other thing that's wrong with backpacks is that they're all covered with PFAS. It makes them stain and water resistant. And so you want to talk about how much those kids handle those backpacks.
So can you...
all day long, from class to class to class, all on the way to school, on the way home from school, taking things out of the backpack when they are home. It's something that's constantly being handled by children. So getting a backpack that is PVC-free and PFAS-free is something that you should really try to do.
But I know that if you go online, you can find, cotton backpacks, organic cotton backpacks that are completely free from those things.
Yep. Teaching your children about the things that are in their lives that are contributing to these worldwide crises that we're in right now is important.
The Center for Environmental Health actually has a page on their eco-friendly backpacks. So if you Google environmentally friendly backpacks, it'll take you to the Center for Environmental Health. And they've got a nice page with all kinds of things that are available.
Yeah.
So it is possible. You just have to work at it a little bit.
You have to work at it a little bit, and it's worth working at.
All right. So we got our school supplies. What about sending our kids to school with their snacks and their lunch?
Okay, well, plastic sandwich bags, just ubiquitous in a school lunch.
Yeah.
Yep, but you need to deal with it. You need to deal with it because that has to go.
So what are the choices then?
So there are healthier options available, reusable options available, and you got to start with the water bottle, right? So the water bottle can't be a plastic water bottle. It just can't be. We've got to get over that. You can't send your child to school with a bottle that is going to be not only giving them a drink of water, but also a drink of nano and microplastics, as well as other chemicals that are leaching from that plastic water bottle into the water. So you got to go with a stainless steel bottle. It's the best option for kids. I mean, they do make really good glass bottles, but I think maybe only for the older kids. Those are, reasonable. I mean,
those
little
are the ones
kids,
that are covered with a plastic.
Yeah, they're covered with a silicone.
A rubber outside.
A silicone wrap on the outside.
So they don't break easily.
So they don't break easily, but you don't want to chance it with an elementary school kid. So, there are a lot of companies that make reusable stainless steel bottles for kids' lunches, and they fit in all kinds of bags that they have for that. And they have different tops on them. Kids like straws or sippy tops or so on. But you've got to avoid those plastic water bottles, even if they are reusable. And sometimes plastic water bottles are not just the ones that you throw out, every time, the little 6-ounce or the 12-ounce or the 16-ounce bottles, but they're reusable plastic water bottles. And you got to avoid those too.
Because as they get scratched,
that makes it even easier for the chemicals that are in that plastic to leach into the water.
Okay, so what are we putting the food in?
Well,
what are we putting our sandwiches in?
There are a lot of companies now. There used to just be one, but now there's companies that make these terrific all-metal options with, various compartments in them. They're like bento box style lunchboxes, right? And they're just stainless steel. They're going to last forever.
Yeah.
Year to year to year to year to year. You just don't need to. You don't need to buy new ones. And that's the deal, is just go with stainless steel lunch trays that have actual stainless steel covers on them as well.
Containers, basically. Stainless steel containers for the food.
That's exactly right. And then you can get fabric sandwich envelopes, okay? If you want to just wrap something, want to put it in their pocket or something. And so you can just wrap it in fabric. There are washable items. I think there's a company called Lunchskins, and you might as well just say it. Lunchskins and Stasher and Abigo and other companies that are making reusable and washable sandwich things with a little Velcro on them that closes them and holds the sandwich in. But you can also just put them in a parchment bag or a paper bag or a wax paper bag. Hello. That's what we always had our sandwiches in. We never had plastic sandwich bags.
Yeah.
And so that works also very well. And what are you putting in those lunches?
I was just going there. What are you sending your kids to school with for snacks and to eat?
Kids love these already, these prepackaged little brightly colored, fun-looking snack packs that are just all plastic.
And the food is not good.
And the food is not good. All this processed foods. I mean, kids love the processed, especially the snacks. I mean, you go to these stores and you can get 24 little individually wrapped in plastic little snacks of all kinds of stuff. And that's what parents buy. It's easy. And you throw these little snacks in, and you throw their little lunch thing in, you throw in a little pudding, in plastic, and lunch. Done.
Okay, so what would you do?
Well, it takes a little bit more time and effort, but if you want to do snacks, let's talk about snacks for a second. You go to a place where they have a bulk section, and you can get nuts and dried fruits, like mangoes and all kinds of things that kids like, apricots and raisins and whatever, and all different kinds of nuts. And then you can just make up your own little packs of these little snacks. You can put them in the bento box. You can put them in a little parchment or wax paper bag or a little paper bag. And I suppose your kids could help you make it. Right? Absolutely. So they could be part of the process. 100%. So you mix them all up, you buy all these things at a co-op, and you buy them in a paper bag, right? And then you put them in glass jars when you get home. And then, you can mix all these things. Kids can decide, what they want for kind of like a trail mix thing. Yeah. And you put them all in a bowl and you mix them up, and the kids can put them in their little bags. And they can make 24 of their little bags if they really want to, with a little sticker on them, if they want. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about what kids are wearing when they go to school. Well, this is something we really need to talk about more, because clothing is problematic now for children's health, and it's because plastic clothing, which would be polyester and acrylic and rayon and nylon and all those kinds of plastic fabrics, can shed. And when they shed, while your child is wearing them, your child is actually breathing in these micro and nanoplastics, which is just a little bit scary to me.
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't know what the long-term effects of having these plastic particles in your brain and in your heart and in your other organs is. It's really kind of frightening.
So you're talking about acrylic sweaters and, fleeces and things like that.
Polyester, the number one fabric for kids' clothes. You don't have to iron it. Yeah. You just wash it, you throw it in the dryer, and it's ready to go. Yeah. And you know what's happening when it's in the washer and the dryer, too. It's shedding all those plastics, going out through the rinse water in the washing machine, and it's going out through the dryer vent in your dryer out into the air. So you're polluting when you're maintaining that clothing, and you're also putting it on your child and risking them breathing those little fibers in. And they're microscopic. You can't see them.
Yeah.
Nanoplastics, forget it. They're not visible by the naked eye.
Same reason you would avoid polyester sheets, right? Because you're sleeping in plastic.
Yeah, and blankets. I mean, it's hard to find a non-polyester blanket if you go to any store.
Yeah.
Especially kids' blankets, they make them with all kinds of characters, cartoon characters,
sure.
and movie characters and so on them, and kids want them. They're designed to be attractive
sure.
and appealing to children.
All right, so what are you buying for your kids? Cotton?
Yep, you're buying cotton, wool, linen, bamboo. Bamboo less so, but mostly cotton, just cotton, because they make really, really good kids' clothing out of cotton. And, put a sweater on them, a wool sweater. And there's washable wool now, and so that's a good thing, too.
What do you mean washable wool?
You can wash some wool things.
And it doesn't shrink?
And it doesn't shrink.
Really?
Yeah, I don't even want to know what chemicals they have to put in to make it not shrink.
Speaking of chemicals, though, there are a lot of chemicals. We've done shows on this, so there's so many chemicals in the clothing.
In clothing, I know.
It's unbelievable.
It's really, really tough. But you have to also keep in mind that we don't want to just keep turning over the clothing all the time, just, cleaning out all the stuff from last year and buying all new clothing for the next school year, right? This is what happens. I mean, the stores are like empty of clothes right now because everybody's getting ready to go back to school. So you go clothing shopping, right? I mean, when our kids were little, we would get one brand new outfit, the whole thing. And then, we'd look at what they had, and maybe there were some hand-me-downs from an older sister or brother. And then neighbors had clothes that were left over and their kids had grown out of them. And that's something that you really need to try to do, too. It's cheaper than buying new things all the time, and it's going to help this whole idea of fast fashion and overconsumption.
Something that a network of parents in a small, neighborhood could probably do very successfully.
Oh, 100%. And I think people are doing that. Yeah. I mean, you can go online now. There are online, thrift stores. You can go to eBay, Poshmark, ThreadUp are examples of the options, for buying used clothing. And you can get really, really high-quality clothing online for just a fraction of what you would pay for it if you were buying it new. And in fact, some of the items are new.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Some of the items that they put up, are brand new. They've never been worn by the kids.
Yeah. So let's talk about what the kids are learning in school about our environment and about environmental health and things in the curriculum that, we could help with and suggest ways they can learn.
There's a really good organization. It's the California Coastal Commission's Resources for California Educators. It could be for any educators, not just for California educators, right?
Yeah.
But they offer a variety of tools to help students understand and address plastic pollution in particular, including programs and resources. They have streaming videos, they have interagency education network and events calendars. And so you could tap into this from anywhere in the United States.
Sure.
Any teacher, any grade level can actually get something out of this and pass it on to their students through a special day or even as part of the science curriculum. They should, start talking about plastic because it's important. Kids are really smart. They get it. And so give them a chance. Give them the information. Plastic-Free Schools is a really big push for this organization. Mm-hmm. They're really trying to help schools make that transition from a plastic-heavy school environment, to a plastic-free school.
So that would be plastic water bottles and things in the cafeteria. And
Yeah,
things
that
like
kind of thing. And putting in water stations that are filtered.
Yeah.
So that you have filtered water that the kids can fill their water bottles from throughout the day.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing, too.
So one of the environmental education programs that you worked on and developed out of nothing was called Gifts from the Earth. Talk a little bit about that. I thought that was a really great program, especially for the younger kids.
Right. This is actually designed for kindergarten and first grade kids. It was very simple. It's a box painted like the Earth, but it's square, obviously. And in that box are 3 big jars. And in each of those jars, there's
something.
But gifts from the earth. One has nothing in it. And of course, the kids always guess immediately that it's air, right?
Yeah, okay.
The other one has some water in it, and the other has some soil in it. And so these are 3 gifts that are life-giving gifts that we could not survive without, that we just take for granted. We don't think about it. Yeah. And so we go into a little bit of detail on each of these life-giving gifts. I mean, breathing is kind of important, right?
Yeah.
And then, without water, we couldn't survive. And food is important too, of course, critical. So then we talk about what gifts we give back to the earth. I mean, it's only fair, right? That the earth gives us these life-giving gifts for free.
Right.
And then we should give something back.
Right.
Right? And so then we talk about what we give back to the earth. And it's kind of shocking. The kids look at it. I have this huge gift box with a ribbon on it. And we open the ribbon and we open the box, and in it is basically garbage. All the things that we discard. All the things that we have used once or twice maybe, and then gone. And we give all of those back to the earth. And it's an eye-opener. Yeah. It's an eye-opener for these really young kids. And then we talk about what we could do instead. And so that's a good program to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as I recall, you made up that program on
my way to a school one day.
On your way to a school.
Right now, they said, could you come and do something for Earth Day? And I'm like, okay. And I was in a hurry, right? So I just threw some things in a box, quick painted it blue, and put a few green continents on it. And then stopped on the way and got a little bit of dirt. And it worked great.
It sure did.
And then the other one is I'll have the plastic fish special, please. And that's for older children. And that's basically, cradle to grave on plastic production and use and disposal. And, it incorporates everything. It's a fossil fuel. We talk about fossil fuels. And that's what plastic is made from. And then it goes to these manufacturing plants, and they pollute, a very large environment around these plastic manufacturing plants where people are being harmed. They have higher, rates of diseases and so on. And then they use the plastic. And then, you have all those problems with plastic use, right? Because there are chemicals in the plastic, and plastic degrades pretty easily into these micro nanoplastics, which we know now are getting into our body. And then we talk about just disposal. I mean, it is literally clogging up our oceans, and it's filling our landfills. It just doesn't really ever go away.
And the fish eat it, and they're
and then we eat it,
and
of course.
The title.
And therefore, the title, I'll have the plastic fish special, please, which they were all very skeptical about when I first walked into the classroom. It's like, what is this crazy lady going to talk about? Yeah. Well, I'll have the plastic fish special, please. Well, there you go. That's how it started.
All right. Thanks, Patti. This is great.
You're welcome.
Patti Wood, environmental educator, founder and executive director of Grassroots Environmental Education, visiting scholar at Adelphi University, and my co-pilot here on Green Street. She's also playing the flute on this track that you're hearing right now. That's going to do it for this edition of Green Street. Patti and I'll be back next week with another edition of the show. Thanks for listening.